everybody, and welcome to AI People. Today we're talking to Natan Vidra, who is the founder and CEO of Anote, which is a data labeling and model tuning platform. Greetings. So we start the podcast in the same way each time, where we ask for a few predictions about the AI industry as a whole. I know people love making predictions about AI, but I think it's interesting to talk to leaders in the industry and just get a range of different views on these type of topics. So the first question is, how do you see humans and AI collaborating in 5 years' time and in 15 years' time?
Yeah, it's a great question. And first of all, thanks for having me on here today. Really appreciate the opportunity. I think my general motto when it comes to artificial intelligence is I believe in a human-centered AI. So the AI technologies that we build and develop should be catered to people and serve people in the best way possible. So I think there's a lot of areas for growth on like human AI or human machine teaming and interaction where you can have people work together with AI. And AI is essentially like a tool to help people become more efficient and productive and learn a lot.
So do you see that not changing in 5 years' time, 15 years' time, if we keep that kind of same ethic and focus that it should all be built around how to make us more productive and better at what we do?
Yeah, that's correct. I think like the interface or the way that we'll interact with AI and we'll add our feedback will change, but the core kind of notion where the AI and humans will work in tandem will be the same.
Yeah, okay. And how close do you think we are away from AGI? I'll kind of let you put your own definition on that, but do you think there's something which could happen quite soon, or we're still kind of, that perennial 20 years away?
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in like AGI, like artificial general intelligence. I think like it's more of like a hype term in my opinion.
Okay. AI, that's the hype term.
Yeah. I think there are like a lot of areas that are really promising, right? So I think if you're talking about like generalist AI agents, if you're looking at some of the stuff that like Manus has built and Lutra AI has built, where you'll have these teams of agents working together with integrations and tools and models to do general tasks like the same way people do, that's really exciting. If you're looking at like a lot of the benchmarks from like leading model providers on like things like math or physics or coding, that's also, we're gonna definitely do really well there and exceed like the best human capabilities soon. But I think things like robotics are still largely behind, and I think it's hard to kind of, from a definition perspective, artificial general intelligence essentially assumes like an AI that's generally good at everything, and that's both physical and digital. And I think we're ways away for sure. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. And AI as an industry loves kind of a hot piece of news. What's the kind of latest thing that's caught your attention in recent weeks, that you've been excited about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing last week was VO3. So essentially it's crazy. It's like you can enter like a text prompt and it will generate these like videos with audio that could be like a movie. And the outputs are actually like really good. And I think it's really interesting both from like a artistic perspective where it's like, wow, in the future, will we be watching like AI movies, and then from like a deep fake perspective, like how we know what content is actually generated by people versus AI. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I find myself very often watching films these days, just wondering if they've been written by AI, because they seem, just not very human sometimes. I think it's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
So before we jump into Anote, could you just give us a bit about your background? Interested to kind of, just hear about your experience growing up, what got you into coding in the first place, what made you kind of want to become an entrepreneur and go on that journey?
Yeah, of course. So I guess my name's Natan. I grew up in like a small town in New Jersey and was born in New York. Was always really interested in like math and science and physics, and ended up going to college at Cornell where I studied electrical and computer engineering. So I took a lot of really interesting classes like quantum physics or mathematical physics there, and then slowly got really interested in the AI and machine learning space. So um, did my master's in computer science at Cornell Tech um, in New York, where I took classes in deep learning, computer vision, natural language processing, data science, and got involved in their like autonomous systems and AI lab building autonomous robots. Um, so that was really when I kind of got started with AI. I spent a few years at Deloitte. I was like a software engineer and data scientist there in
Hmm.
their applied AI division. So I'd work with like a lot of enterprises who wanted to actually build artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions. They'd kind of come to Deloitte, and I was a data scientist consultant. So I would build a lot of these AI and machine learning POCs for things like text classification or federated learning for medical images, while looking at large quantities of maritime data, for instance. And after working with a bunch of these, clients, I realized that the technologies of artificial intelligence were just growing really rapidly. And
Hmm.
for a lot of the domain-specific use cases within industry and enterprises, there could be new AI technologies and modalities that could really bridge the gap between the amazing potential that AI has to offer and then these everyday tasks that these clients would really care about. So ended up building Anote.
And do you want to kind of jump in and just kind of talk a little bit about kind of what the platform does and kind of the problems that you're solving for customers?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So Anote as a whole, essentially, it's really based on this methodology called human-centered AI, where the idea is for a use case that a customer or enterprise or person cares about, we want to help them get the best, most accurate, and most domain-specific model for their data and use case. That way they can get the best and most tailored results for them, right? So the way you can kind of think about this is today's existing AI models are somewhat limited. So for some tasks, if it's relatively simple, they'll work really, really well. And for other tasks, the output might not always be right. And if the output's great, you should be very happy and that's awesome. But if the output's not always right, you might want to essentially evaluate the results and you might want to try seeing how a few example or test questions have different metrics. You'll want to evaluate like, is the answer right? Is the category prediction right? Is the chunk where I got the answer right? And you want to kind of understand where the model is doing incorrectly. And then from there, if your model's doing not so well, you might want to optimize the performance. So you'll want to do some fine tuning or enhanced RAG or RLHF, and we have this sort of annotation interface that enables you to inject your domain-specific expertise into the ontology that's used to train or fine tune the large language model. And as an output, you can kind of get a really accurate domain-specific model that's time efficient, cost effective, that can save a lot of time and money from tasks that otherwise you'd have to go through and like manually search because the AI model just didn't perform well. And we'll kind of take this really awesome model and you can root it into your own chat GPT like interface.
And like you mentioned, the kind of human-centered AI kind of piece. I mean, how do you see that kind of differentiating from other kind of, fine-tuning platforms that are out there on the market?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great alternatives on the market, and I just encourage everyone to really check out all the amazing products and try to find what's best for them. What we personally do is we have this interface where you can actually learn from people to improve these AI models. We do a lot of like active learning and few shot learning. And rather than kind of doing purely like data centric AI where it'll iterate on the data, you kind of get different models or model centric AI where you're trying a bunch of these different models. and you're seeing how each performs. We do this thing called human-centered AI, where as you're iterating on the data, you're iterating on the best model, and you're trying to get the best model for your data, really incorporating the expertise of people who know a lot about the domain. That's what makes it pretty unique.
And the customers that you're working with, are you kind of, how much guidance and help are you giving them? Are you kind of walking them through it, or are they kind of self-serving? What's the situation there?
So we have a platform that is self-service, and we provide for free. So we don't even charge for this platform. We do have like capacity limits there, but it's meant to be like a self-service product just so people can use it. And then we'll mainly work with larger customers who have large quantities of data, I think hundreds of thousands or millions of data, and really complex or complicated ontologies or tasks. And for them, we just try to provide like 90% time savings, around 75% cost savings, and 15% accuracy increase, depending on the task. And we'll work hand in hand with them on a project where we can actually showcase the technology in action and a subset of their data.
Okay, so you're making money on the services, like rather than the platform itself. Is that right?
Yeah, we provide our platform for free to make it more accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, understand. And like, obviously fine-tuning models can be like very complex. Like how do you integrate human feedback into those models to make it more effective? Do you want to talk through how that process works?
Yeah. So we have a lot of guides on our website and documentation on how we specifically do this. But the general idea from an algorithmic perspective is you have your AI model make predictions, and some of these might be right, some of these might be wrong, and some of these the model might be really certain of, and others the model isn't certain of. So we kind of sort based on like the edge cases as well as like the volatility and uncertainty. Then for each edge case, the human can kind of come in and annotate a few of these. Either a human or an AI can annotate, depending on what you prefer. And then you can kind of merge these annotations, and as you kind of label these edge cases, we update the predictions and the probability score.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of train these different versions of models with different numbers of annotations, and you can kind of evaluate on your test set the performance over time and see how accuracy changes over time, the stability or the impact changes over time. And after you get to like a certain threshold, like your model has learned from your interventions, so you don't need to actually do that much more human annotation.
And within the customers that you're working with, who are you typically engaging with? Is it the kind of ML engineers, the data scientists, or is it more the kind of domain expert, like the business user, or both? Or how does that work?
Yeah, we normally work with like the heads of data scientists or heads of AI organizations, but our platform essentially enables you to have teams of people, and some roles are related to like ontologists or subject matter experts who like know a lot about the domain of what you're specifically trying to do. And then we have like annotators who actually inject the domain's expertise into the model, and admins. So those are people who are overseeing the project, almost like a project manager. And then this tool as a whole is very helpful for like a data scientist that really cares about having a customized, fine-tuned, accurate model. They're looking at large quantities of data. So.
And do you always see the kind of human being in that loop, or do you think that the kind of industry will move towards automating more parts of the process? Like how important do you think that kind of human is?
I think the human is very important. I think whether they're involved in the fine tuning or annotation process is really up to the end business user. So in our product, we have a zero shot model. So you can have like a chatbot or models where you don't need any human expertise, and you'll see how the performance will do. And there's a lot of research done on things like MCP or multi-agent collaboration, where or like different optimization techniques where you can try to do as best as you can without a human being involved. And then there's also research where you have like AI annotations, right? Where it's like you have an AI acting as a human to do the labels.
Yeah.
But then I do think if you really want assurances and high quality results and evaluations that are like really trustworthy, it's sometimes or most times better to like have a human involved in the training process. And that's why a lot of the people we work with have like teams of people that actually really care about the accuracy, the performance of the models.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of the customers that you're working with, like you mentioned, they tend to be like larger customers. Are they particular industries? Are you seeing certain industries, where there's a stronger use case for what you're doing?
Yeah, I'd say from a technology perspective, it's pretty horizontal, right? So our platform works across industries and use cases. We've done a lot of great stuff in healthcare with companies like Harvard Web Medical and Weill Cornell, and we're trying to expand on the healthcare front. We've done some stuff in finance too with some really awesome clients. And recently we focused a lot, or we're trying to focus on the federal and government space. So some of the problems there are just really mission critical with large quantities of unstructured data, and we want to really help America in the AI race. So that's kind of an area of focus currently.
And I guess all of those industries, like data sensitivity is quite a crucial aspect. So presumably, there's something in your platform which helps companies to kind of balance, that privacy, compliance, along with the accuracy of the model.
Yeah, that's correct. So we have like an on-premise version of our product as well. We deployed it with like a few places and have tested it. And we also have like a private version of our chatbot product that you can just kind of run. You can turn off your Wi-Fi. It like still works. And it's like pretty awesome. But yeah, data privacy and security is a major risk, and we do everything we can to mitigate that and ensure that our customers' data is safe.
Has there been an occasion when you've been talking to one of these big companies where you've just hit across like a challenge which you really didn't expect, in a way that they were working perhaps which you kind of weren't aware of?
Yeah, I think there's like a few cases that normally like we would try to keep like some of the work we'll do with our specific clients like between us, but yeah, I think there's a lot of times where you're looking for one thing and the model does something completely differently, or the use case is just completely different. And we always try to be customer focused and customer first.
And looking at the kind of AI development industry, more broadly, there's obviously, lots of companies coming into this space. Like, what do you think the kind of bigger challenges are for, for you and other vendors in the space?
I think right now what's really exciting is that artificial intelligence is just growing really rapidly. So within the next few years, we'll expect to see like a lots of AI agents and MCP and teams of these agents kind of working within the enterprise. And what's also really scary but also exciting is if you look at the opportunity right now, I think in America, like around 15% of people that are US adults use ChatGPT, right? Across the world, like there's so many people that could really benefit from the artificial intelligence technology, just don't really know about the stuff. So there's also a really huge opportunity to really take the existing technology today, even if it didn't like advance at all, and just like make it more accessible to people in a way that's really easy to use. And then I think that's actually one of the biggest problems that we're trying to solve. How do we actually take this incredible AI technology and put it in the hands of people? That way they don't fall behind, and that way they can use this stuff to really benefit their lives. And that's what we're really trying to figure out.
And how do you kind of plan to scale? What's the kind of next phase of growth for you look like?
I think we're still figuring it out, to be honest. There's a few things that we're like definitely doing. So one is we want to essentially host a bunch of these AI events across different cities in America, and we're working with partners right now to do that. So right now we have in New York, we have one of the largest AI communities out there, and we want to build these communities across America. And really the goal there is to make this stuff more accessible to everyday people who want to learn about AI and machine learning. So we'll try to hit like 10 or 15 cities by the end of 2025. The second thing is we always want to understand what are the latest trends in AI and machine learning, what's new. So this August 4th, actually, we'll be having our essentially a new product release where we'll be sharing a lot of new research that we've been doing on some of the things we mentioned in our last launch related to autonomous intelligence, related to some of the models we've been building. And we're always trying to kind of expand on the product side of things. And I think from there, it's really about like the markets, right? I think from a technology perspective, there's so much we can do to improve and enhance our AI technology. But really from a go-to-market perspective, there's all these different markets that really could really benefit from our technology that are just kind of like largely untapped. So it's kind of like finding these markets, really understanding what people want and how we can actually really add a lot of value to them. And that's the main name of the game.
And you mentioned that you're kind of working with partners to kind of build out these communities. Is that kind of consulting companies, or what type of partners are they that you're working with?
Yeah, we try to keep some of that stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you
private.
don't need to give me names, but just in terms of the type of companies, like.
I'd say like right now, there's this kind of huge push towards AI upskilling and workforce development. So a lot of the companies that we're working with are really focused on how do we help people within these companies learn about AI. And I mean, if I can talk offline about like the specifics, but yeah, I think that's like the main folks that are really interested in this, like folks interested in like the AI upskilling business.
Because I noticed on your background, like before you started the company, you did some kind of teaching on the AI side. So I guess that's some of your past kind of coming out as well in the business now.
Definitely, I think that's like without that experience, I probably wouldn't have founded a business today. I think that's like a huge part of why I build Anote to help people learn about AI.
And in terms of kind of the process of building a company, like where do you kind of think about go-to-market strategy at the moment? You know, it's a very, very busy marketplace. Like there's lots of vendors in your space. Like how do you go about engaging with your key buyers?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it's really about adding as much value as we can to potential buyers who want to work with us. So what we really try to do is really understand the artificial intelligence technology, and we try to share a lot of our knowledge with the broader community. And that's kind of why we host like our AI days. That's why we open source a lot of the research and documentation we've done and a lot of the videos we've done. And we try to kind of essentially use this kind of knowledge to kind of really help the customer really understand how AI can have an impact positively in their day-to-day life, and how using any sort of artificial intelligence technology, be it Anote or someone else, could really provide accuracy increases, time savings, cost savings. And then from there, we have an amazing team, so we'll try to engage in dialogue on like how our team can specifically add value to the use cases that our customers care about. And if there's a clear win for both sides, then it makes sense to engage, right?
And within the team that you mentioned there, like how do you think about the culture of the business in terms of supporting both being on like the front line of kind of cutting edge AI research, but then also being very practical and building kind of real world, results for your customers?
Yeah, it's always a trade-off, I think. I always am more on the cutting edge of AI, and I think a weakness is we need to really get more practical. But we've done a lot of really great work, and we've worked with a lot of companies. And at this point, we've labeled in like 50 or 100 million rows of data and have thousands of users using our product. So there's definitely like ways we can go on the go-to-market side, but we also really enjoy like learning about AI and think that's what's kind of gotten us here. So.
But are you kind of structured about that at all? Like, do you say, right, we're going to spend, this percentage of the week working on kind of research and this percentage on kind of real world applications, or is it just more kind of, where the day takes you?
I'd say it's kind of like we have like a priority queue of what are like the urgent fires that we need to do. And normally if it's like a customer engagement, that's like higher on the priority queue.
Yeah.
Um, and then we try to do the things we essentially have what I'd say is like a way of kind of assessing which things we should work on. And there's like feasibility, how easy it is to do, how much of a lift it'll be, impact, like how much will this actually benefit both our team as well as our broader constituents, and then like mission alignment, right? Is this something that is really aligned with our mission to help make AI more accessible and bridging the gap between the potential models and what people care about? And if the things kind of hit those three criteria, then we try to give it a go, right?
Yeah, it's kind of worth investing your time. Okay. And in terms of like the process of kind of building a company, like how are you finding, like the kind of investor side of things, like talking about fundraising and bringing money into the business? Is that something that's easy or taking up a lot of time?
Um, yeah, we just try to kind of keep our foot forward on just like what we need to do tomorrow, I'd say. We have a lot on a roadmap, and we try to just kind of stay focused on what we're trying to build. And yeah.
Great stuff. Okay, well, I appreciate you coming on today. If people want to get in touch with you and kind of discuss what's the best way to reach you? Do you live LinkedIn, email? Whereabouts do you spend most of your time?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is fine. I have like a LinkedIn, it's like Natan Vidra. You can just send me like a DM. Email is also fine, I think. And Vidra at Anote.ai should work. And yeah.
Great stuff. Well, thank you for your time, Natan, and thank you to everybody watching. And stay tuned for the next episode of AI People coming soon.